to Fireside Chat. This is our Fireside Chat 20, right? When we started this, I don't think that we ever thought that we would do like 20 episodes. It started like almost like just a very informal thing, but 20, right?
We've kept to it for almost half a year. That's pretty good going.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So as always, I'm here with Mash and Jose, all of us from Codurance. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about recently is about effectiveness, both in terms of personal effectiveness, how effective we are, but also being effective with our clients, with our teams, and so on, right? So then it's okay. Well, let's have an episode on effectiveness. But of course, that before we start, always just wanted to remind everyone: if you are enjoying those chats, please leave a comment, subscribe to the channel so that you're notified when we have more episodes, and put the thumbs up so that we know that you are enjoying. So with that out of the way, effectiveness. So how important effectiveness really is for you and for us, but also I think that I have a more personal question. How effective do you think you really are? All right.
It's a very good question, right? I can start.
All right.
I think there are two answers to this. One is
right.
how
If you start
effective.
the consultant, it depends.
Depends. No.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the context. Right? What is the context here?
Depends who you ask. So, exactly. So if you ask, there's how effective do I think I am, and how effective am I are two very different answers.
You are perceived.
Objectively, how
exactly,
effective are you
subjective and
to be?
Objective. Right. So I think subjectively, I think I am quite effective. I like to think I am actually kind of above average effective. Objectively, I think probably slightly below average effective. But I think therein lies the answer to the other question. I think being effective for myself, I'll answer it for myself, is extremely important. It's, to me, it's in a professional capacity, is one of the most important things that I need to have, or one of the most important qualities I need to have. I see it, I think the dictionary definition is as well, having the intended effect, right? So, or meeting the expected, having the expected effect, that kind of thing. And everything else we do is kind of towards that, to have that effect, to kind of achieve something. So, whatever we're learning, whatever we're doing, all the skills that we can bring to bear, all the experience that we can bring to bear, right? Everything kind of culminates in creating an effect. And so having that effect is extremely important. And that's how I see it. I see it as an extremely important thing. And that's why I think I'm above average effective, but I fear that I'm below average effective.
That's a very good answer, because for me it is also very important. I would say there's effectiveness, no, and productivity, and that's not exactly the same thing. But it is very important. The thing with effectiveness, though, is whose expectations are you meeting, and this is where I think part of what you're saying comes from. Whereas from my perspective, I am being effective because the things that I sought out to get done or accomplish, they are met, right? But if you look at it from a different perspective, there may be other things that you were not considering, and so on. So I think it is a very personal question as well, right? Like it's a very personal thing. It's very much based on your point of view. I like to think that I'm considering a lot of the time what our clients consider as effective, and that is part of the driver, no, on what kind of things I look for. Yeah, but it's essential in everything you do. Like I really want things to work out, right? So it's what I'm after to some extent.
You know that, for example, I don't think that anyone would say that effectiveness is not important to them. I don't think someone, I don't think that I should be effective, right? But I think you notice more in how not paranoid is not the word. I'm looking for a word that I cannot find, but like how effectiveness bleed into your personal life. For example, there is a professional side, but I don't know about you, but like I don't know, I would like to ask one day, like my parents or like my family, my wife and stuff, like how they can live in the same house as me. My parents don't live here, but you know what I mean? Like, for example, everything you try to do, even like, for example, I like to eat frozen pizza. I always have some frozen pizza. Yeah. And then when it's late, I say, I'm going to have some frozen pizza. So then I need to prepare the frozen pizza. I get angry with myself if I do the wrong steps. For example, the first thing before I even take the frozen pizza from the fridge, I switch on the oven because I need the oven to start getting heated. And that's the thing that takes longer. So then I will take the pizza from the oven or the fridge, the freezer, sorry. And then I normally like to defrost that on the microwave so that it goes but there is a sequence of steps. And then once I put the pizza in the microwave, the oven is already heated. Then I will prepare the table, put the cloth and put the stuff. So because then while I'm waiting, I'm doing something else. And this is just like a very small example of how unbearable it might be to live with me in the same house, right? Because but this is also about effects. Because if you think about, like, I was having this conversation with my dad and my mom the other day. They were at home. If you think about like kind of profession we are software engineers most, right? So we spend like 2 decades like trying to find efficiency, like what is the shortest path? So how can I make these solutions smaller and stuff? And this kind of mindset of solving problems with small detail and optimizing for things, it's not bleeding into my life.
But is that more related to efficiency?
To efficiency and not effectiveness.
Well,
and are they related? Well, they are definitely related, but how big an overlap are they?
Well, you're still trying to achieve something, right? So you are still having the end result of trying to do something well, but in the most efficient way, right? So, or how would you distinguish the two so that we have all clarity and people listening as well?
So effectiveness is described as having the intended effect or the expected effect.
Mm-hmm.
Efficiency is more related to the same effect achieved in less time, steps,
How we get
complexity,
there.
so on.
Yeah, with minimum waste. But
this is the same. So, for example, I was calibrating the efficiency in order to be more effective. So for the goal was right, but
yeah, the goal is right, but I think this is more related to efficiency because, like, even if you didn't turn the oven on, right, you took the pizza out. You can, as long as you have a nice oven, that heats up in less than 5 minutes, it's still okay because you'll still have the intended effect. Because actually, the problem would be is that if your oven took longer to cook, then the pizza will thaw out and get ruined. Then that would be like, not effective because, you messed up the pizza. But if it took like 5 minutes longer to make the pizza, you still have your pizza.
Yeah, but there is a pros. Yeah, no, I get that. But what I'm saying is, for example, those things, like one thing is to say, oh yeah, it's important. Another thing is like, how does it really impact your routine? So for example, when you say effectiveness is important for you, or you think is important, like how does it impact your, not only like your routine? So for example, how much do you think about that everything you do?
At risk of
going into a tangent because this is a much better topic.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I could not resist.
No. At risk of going into a tangent. The way that it affects Is it like in the example that you gave, Sandro? For me, effectiveness would be around, you're hungry, you're trying to fulfill, you're to eat something, right? And something that you like. As long as you get that, whatever steps you follow, maybe as long as that doesn't like ruin your expectation of the experience, let's say, that's it will be fine, right? Like if you didn't have pizza and you had something else, but you liked it, great. If you ate your pizza, straight from the fridge, like I've done in the it's,
Wow,
right?
that
Like
was
all
desperation, eh?
pizza, that would be, that would still be for me, no, according to those criteria, that would still be effective, no. And this is something that sifts into my personal life, because a lot of the times, I go for, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish, and whatever steps we need to get there, whatever steps I end up using to get there, may not be the most efficient ones, may not be uh, according to my partner, but the right way of doing it, right? But you're achieving and that's sort of what I'm looking at, like what is it that we are trying to go for.
And
And this creates issues in our relationship, right?
Okay,
Because
so
I'm more okay, so what are the results? Let's go for this, and let's find a way of getting there, right? Like this is not about how you want to do
yeah.
it. No, it's also about that, by the way. I'm just saying, just in case she watches this.
in it. Yeah, sorry, go on, Sandro.
No,
No, I was just saying because you mentioned the difference mesh and you were correct in saying what I was saying. Is it? I know it's technically possible by the meaning of the words, but like for example, would you be satisfied? Would you call yourself effective if you were inefficient in achieving that?
To a point. In fact, I would take it to, yeah, that's why I say that there is an overlap. You can be inefficient to a point where you're not achieving the intended effect, but you can be somewhat inefficient, but still have the intended effect. So,
Mhm.
like even in this example, actually, the intended effect is not a cooked pizza. The
It's true.
intended effect is twofold. It's about sating your hunger
Yeah.
and eating something that you love,
Mhm.
right? And the same effect can be achieved by
Mhm. Yeah.
ordering a pizza on Uber,
True.
right? So so there is like, so that's why I think effectiveness is almost like a higher order thing,
Mhm.
and efficiency is a more
It's the
detailed
means
thing.
to that end.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty
so now that
interesting. I
we
never
got
thought
that
of it
out
like
of the
that.
way,
Huh?
now that we got that out of the way, and we are all talking about the same thing.
No, but,
Well,
but I think that this relates to like how important it really is because like I get to the point where I get frustrated with myself, not with others and stuff. But for example, even when I'm trying to achieve something, like but I know that I'm talking more about efficiency and not effectiveness. But like the I still try to go, but how I get there is something that bleeds into my personal life. It's not only like a working thing. Is
Oh yeah, always. If
you know.
effectiveness does bleed into your personal life all the time. In fact, I like to think that the older I got, the more effective I got, and I find it in my personal life. I'm actually quite impatient, especially with my kids. Right?
Okay,
Only this morning.
yeah.
Like this is to the point where I had asked my son to do something. I knew that he would probably sleep late and he wouldn't have done it. He's probably going to forget that he's going to do it. So for me to get that intended effect that I desire of him, I rang him. He was asleep, of course. I rang him again an hour later, tried to wake him up. Then he woke up and I said to him a few things like, can you do this immediately? I'm going to check up on you again in 30 minutes time, and I'm going to be on your case until you've done it. So do it so I'm off your case. And the other thing, by the way, it's my birthday today. Can you say happy birthday to me? Because I'm gonna think that you're gonna forget it. You probably will forget it. So I'm gonna remind you and just say happy birthday to me. So that's out of the way as well.
okay.
Yes.
So, if we bring that to more like a professional context, how do you assess your effectiveness, right? So, or yeah, in a professional environment, how do you know that you are being effective?
I think it's hard to do it on your own because, as I said before, this usually you're trying to get the desired effect for other people as well, not just you try to consider and you execute according to certain criteria. So I think one of the main ways to you know understand whether you've achieved or accomplished that is to ask people. Hey, okay, so are you no what do you think about this? Like, this is what I was looking for. Was anything missing? So asking for feedback for me is really important on that point. No, and I do this, like, if we do meetings or whatever, I usually go and ask someone, hey, give me some feedback. Like, what do you think? Like, what were the main things that you took away? Whatever, right? Just to understand, even if I don't ask them to say directly or to like this, I ask around what I was trying to accomplish, and see if it hit or not the target, right? So that's one way for me. um when I was more involved in projects and so on, delivery is a very good also objective measure of that. No, are we delivering um working software, etc., etc.? No, are we meeting those expectations? If not, why not? And are we doing something about it, right? That's kind of like the, yeah, like defensive. No.
Hmm. What about you,
I,
Mash?
I, I see it slightly differently, actually. I see I think there are two levels of answering this question. One is for you yourself individually, and one is you in the context of a team, right? And I mean, from an individual perspective, the way I see it is that there is a backlog of things that you accumulate, right? And you need to prioritize them. Even before having that backlog, you need to understand how you source this backlog, because I think some people can be, so this is where kind of things like proactiveness come in, right? Because if you're not very proactive, your backlog isn't very big. So this is where also, like, what other people's perspective of you being effective comes in as well. How effectively, pardon the double kind of usage of this, how effectively are you filling this backlog, right? Being proactive, understanding what is expected of you. Because a lot of the times, even in my kind of early stages, I didn't really have that kind of outlook, like outward focus to say, well, what are the different people that rely on me actually expect of me, right? And this is where you build that backlog work. And then how do you prioritize that, right? How do you make sure that you are setting the expectations right and doing things according to their importance, right? I mean, in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks about kind of urgent and important, and kind of creating that balance, because urgent is not always the most important. And in fact, things that really get left behind are the ones that are not urgent but very important. And how do you make kind of those priority choices, so you're not just driven by the next urgent thing, right? So this prioritization of the backlog, and then getting those things done, like starting, finishing. If you have something that blocks you, how do you then remove those blockers in a proactive way, and getting things out reliably, right? So when those expectations are on you, how reliable are you in meeting those expectations? So reliability is also a very important aspect of it. And all these things I see as a personal level being effective. I think it's much more complex when you talk about team level effectiveness, because then you've got all sorts of other things that maybe we don't want to get too much into, like leadership and all those kind of things, where not only you're managing yourself to having the desired effect, but you're also leading the team and helping and supporting the team to collectively have the desired effect. And I think that's a much bigger topic to go into, and we'll probably want to stay on the more personal side.
Yeah, so yesterday, not yesterday, sorry, the last episode that we had Steve here with us, and we were talking about the journey from an engineer to manager. right? So, or an expert engineer to a terrible manager, as we named it. So,
I love the
so
name.
but part of that trajectory, right? So from an expert engineer to a terrible manager, for me, it's also related to effectiveness, or at least the perception of effectiveness. Because like before, the path that I took, I believe that quite a few of us took the same path. We were told what to do, which means that there were an expectation. So, hey, that's the backlog, that's the next feature, that's the user story, that's what we want to achieve, this is the goal of this project, and so on and so forth. So the expectation was set, right? So the boundaries of your work, they were set. And it's much easier in that context to judge your own effectiveness, and even like potentially extrapolate your team effectiveness, because things are much more well defined. And I think that both of you mentioned expectations at some point. When you end up taking positions where you have, it makes it very difficult for you to focus in one thing, because normally like positions like leadership positions or management or director of this, director of that, founder of this or that. So you end up having to address multiple things at the same time. You can prioritize the amount of effort that you put in each one of them. You can put more effort or less effort in them, but you cannot just stop certain things. So for me, the kind of work that I do today, for example, I feel far less effective than I was in the past. Way more efficient, less efficient as well, no doubt, because I struggle in limiting my work in progress. It's not a struggle. I think that is even impossible to because like there are things that I don't even control anymore. I don't have the luxury of I don't want to do this or that. Like certain things needs to be done, and I need to address it. And a lot of things I'm not able to work in isolation anymore. So before I could say, hey, I will take this user story, I will take this piece in here, I will do this code review. Today I have less opportunities to do that. Today there are very few things that I can say I will take care of this on my own, which means I control everything. Because most of the things that I do, I don't control all the variables, and I'm always like having people working on those things. I need to move more people to get that thing done. I find myself today far less effective, and I struggle far more in coping with the working program. I believe that I got better over the years. I like to think that I'm way better and more efficient today than I were before, but I still don't think that I'm very.
Sorry.
Yeah. So this is.
I
I
mean,
have things done in a much larger scale,
but then you're going into effectiveness again as a team or as a group that is like kind of performing. Like no, it's not individual.
Because the problem is that you are leading those initiatives, right? But it's not things that you can work in isolation anymore, right? So it's not only like although it is a team effort, but you are the ones leading those initiatives or coordinating across, and that makes it very difficult, at least for me.
There's a few elements. You know, when you were actually talking about this, apologies for my phone going off, but when you were actually talking about this, I was thinking a bunch of things actually, because two major things came to my mind. One is compilers, not compilers, sorry, operating system schedulers, and concurrent computing. That's just the nerd in me.
Wow.
But,
Okay.
and the other thing that came to my mind.
That's just the way that Mash's brain works.
And the other thing, yeah, exactly, just all over the place.
The nerd side of you will always emerge.
It will
doesn't
always
matter
win.
if you try to constrain it, it will come out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that came to my mind was about delegation, about team level effectiveness, and all those things. And I think there are two aspects to this. One, the reason I was thinking about operating system schedulers is because concurrent programming is there's a single processor, right? And you've got a number of tasks that it needs to do, and it needs to provide a semblance of progress in all of these. but also there might be other things that come in that are extremely important that need to be done immediately, and then it has an interrupt system as well, right? So it's actually fascinating to I mean, if you haven't looked at how the scheduling algorithms work, it's fascinating to look at that kind of thing, because an operating system that a single processor can do many things, but actually can only do one thing at a time.
A scheduler, a good scheduler, is a scheduler efficient or effective?
Well, it is effective as well as efficient. So I was saying efficiency is the detail,
it can
and
optimize the work.
effectiveness is the results that is having, right?
No, but it
effectiveness
doesn't control the outcome of the different tasks.
No,
it's make sure that they are being done.
At enough of it is being done so the person is satisfied. So it's meeting expectations, right?
Sorry, I could not resist.
Every task we got, it's time to execute and so on, and you won't have something clogging the or not getting enough.
Exactly, like you can't do one thing at a time. It's like Sandro. He doesn't have enough. He can't do just one thing at a time because he doesn't have that option, right? Just like a scheduler, he has to do many things at once, but meet expectations. So give each thing enough time so that there's enough progress going on, so that people, whoever is waiting for those things, are satisfied with that progress, not necessarily completion. So he's going to do all the things in a longer time, and that context switching, even with scheduling, actually moving things in and out of registers, adds the overhead, right? So it's much less efficient, to answer the question. but it's more effective.
Yeah. But this is an interesting thing that you said, because this is an area that I think that, although I still don't feel that I'm as effective as I was when I had a different kind of position, or a more focused position, let's say. There is a thing that I think that I got better. Doesn't mean that I'm good at it, but I'm certainly better now than I was before, is setting expectations. Because for me, this is key to a lot of things, right? So because all of those things, effectiveness, efficiency, productivity, and stuff, they are all they are within the context according to which expectation. They are all relative as well. So I think that what I got better at is, given that we need to do many different things, let's set the right expectations so no one gets frustrated.
Yeah.
Right. So if we are able to do that, you end up doing work. You start, again, how effective that work is questionable, but at least you reduce some pressure.
You do, but you got to play with those variables a little. If you set someone an expectation that this will be done in a year's time, they will get frustrated anyway, right?
No, sure. This is what I said. I think I got better at finding those balance and stuff. I'm not sure. As I said, I don't think I'm great at it, but I got better. But I think that, for example, because one thing that drives me, well, it was difficult, because as you start having to do multiple things at the same time, you try to apply the same effectiveness expectation, let's say, to multiple things now. And certain things you have more control than others. But I don't know about you, but you both, but I got really frustrated, in this change of position, let's say, or the kind of work I do. I got really frustrated with many times because I could not see the result, or it was not moving, too many things at the same time. I was always overwhelmed as well, because I could not. It's not about prioritization. It's I still need to do the other things. It's just.
Yeah, but prioritization and limiting WIP, to some extent, is about saying no or not now. Yeah, and trying to figure out of those things that you need to do, what are this is something that, for instance, when talking about this change, I kind of realized at some point, right? You're juggling a bunch of balls at the same time, and some balls are gonna drop because it's just too many. You're not let's say, even if it doesn't happen, there is a big chance that they will, right? Mm-hmm. So then what you need to be thinking is, which balls you don't want to drop, right? And that's it. And it is part of that. No, it's like, okay, so we won't be doing this now, for instance, right? Or I'm going to delegate, as Matt was saying, no, and because simply, could I do it? Should it, all of the things are coming into play. No, should I do it? If I do it, or if I pass it on to another person, maybe this person, is not going to be able to do the job. Then I need to like provide them with the context. Will that be more work than just doing it
Sometimes
myself?
it is. Sometimes it is.
And all that stuff, right? But at some point, you're like, okay, but if there's no way that I'm going to be able to deal with everything. So I just need to either it doesn't get done and I'll do it later, or I pass it on and I'm okay with the results. Yeah, and we did everything we could, with the information we had in the context, the whole retrospective thing. No, and it's a bit about that, right? It's a bit about choosing your battles, so to speak, no, and being really good at knowing which ones you really need to nail and to what degree, right? And that's part of the prioritization. No, it's not the only which order, it's also how I'm going to allocate my resources, or my time, or how that's going to happen. And I feel like that is something that I've gotten better at. From I went from wanting to do everything myself, and even getting frustrated because people wouldn't be able to do things at the level that I felt I could do them, which is another very terrible way of living, to be honest. No, um, and try to understand. No, try to meet people where they are and understand what the outcome is going to be even before it happens, and then use that as as a trade-off, basically, in order to be able to be effective in the things that are important. Yeah.
There's a couple of things here actually. One is around the because I was thinking about even when you said like delegating and getting others to do that, and even if that's immediately not very effective, that you may end up spending more time, you are preparing people so they can provide more support to you, right? So initially it might be painful to delegate and painful to kind of pass that on and so on, and but if you do it well and have the kind of the right kind of people around you, then it could get much easier. This is one thing. The other thing is around choosing your battles. And I think you mentioned like you have to pick your battles, like but actually one thing I find is that often the the expectations from the other sides come when they don't fully understand what else you have on your plate. So I think transparency is quite key, and that communication is to kind of help people understand all the other things that you're having to do, and all the and where their things, the thing that they're relying on sits and in is kind of and then they can understand more as well in terms of, or they can be more forgiving and change their expectations in terms of how much they rely on you or how quickly they want this thing done so they can move on, because obviously they might be waiting on you, you might be a blocker to them, right? So it's kind of create, and that kind of changes expectations, that it may even provide room and space for them to actually come and help you to be more effective. So I think it's not just about like I'm gonna do this and not this and this. It's about communication, visibility, transparency, getting people involved, people who are actually relying on you, so that they can be part of your prioritization process, but also be a help in you becoming more effective.
Yeah, we had a full episode on delegation, right? That was actually quite insightful in a way. Like, I actually listened to that episode back, and I got more. Even being involved in the discussion with the two of you, like when I listened to the delegation episode, I actually felt quite insightful in the way that we think about delegation, because it's not easy, right? So just to delegate and finding help, right? So regardless if we are in a position like, for example, a position like ours, that we for example, we can create our own team. But even when you are part of the team, like finding a way to arrange the work to be done effectively across the team is not an easy task at all. Like bringing a group of people, even if the mission is clear, but organizing everyone to accomplish that mission, uh, it's difficult. Putting that objective is already complicated, but I think that is even more complicated. Okay, now we need to organize ourselves to get that thing done. It's easier said than done quite often, right?
You touch on a tool that I find, personally quite helpful on that side, which is kind of goal setting, or setting a specific target, but especially with things that are going to take a very long time, or like now I'm writing some stuff, right? And if I always go by priorities, I'm never going to write it, and I really want to get it done, no? So setting up, I'll sit down 15 minutes and I'll write a couple of lines at least. That's my objective for the day. Can I do that consistently every day? No. Eventually maybe I won't finish as fast as if I blog months and do it, no, but it will help me keep that progress going on, and it will help me to provide the focus or the space in order to focus on things, no, and trying to get things done. And I feel like that's a good way of approaching, especially things that are competing, the with in your priorities, no, like as Mash was saying, urgent versus important and so on. So that helps me a lot. And from the point of view of a team, or as a group trying to get things done, I feel like that's also something that is very much underused in a sense, right? Like you talked about setting expectations. So for me, that goes a little bit into setting expectations, as in, okay, let's try and do this. No, let's aim for at the end of the meeting to have these things, right? Or at the or in a week from now, this is what we should be reviewing, and things like this that provide focus to people, provide a bit of a way also for them to prioritize as well, like how much do they want to invest, and so on, right? It's a great tool in that sense.
Speaking of tool, I think one thing that you mentioned is, like this, finding time to do like the things that are not urgent but important. But also, I'd like to add the things that are important but unsavory. You don't like doing them. So it's not just related
How much time do we have in this episode? Just
so there's, and actually I think both of those things, the urgent, not urgent but important, and also important but unsavory, the habits part is actually a very important aspect. It's like creating a habit to be able to do that, to kind of get yourself in this routine of, if there is something that you need to do, and that, like, for example, a lot of people that I know to be quite effective, they tend to start their day earlier than people think they do. But what they are actually doing is trying to kind of give themselves some time where they can work on things that that will not take us kind of a back seat when more urgent things or interrupts and people calling and meetings and all those things start coming in. So they start doing that, as you said, giving yourself like 20 minutes or something every day to write, or half an hour to write, and these kind of things. And I think this is important, these kind of habits, that you do a daily thing for the things that is not as urgent or not as pressing, but is important, and giving yourself time to be able to do that is very important.
Yeah, for me, I'd like to tackle two of the things. Like one, the things that we know we need to do, but we don't necessarily like doing, and the other one is the habit as well. For the things that are not top priority, they are neither urgent nor massively important, but you want to get them done eventually. So for the first one, that is the things that I don't like doing. Every job has that, right? And our current job has that, right? So there are loads of many things that I love doing, and there are certain things that I don't like doing. That I just know that needs to be done. I learned how to cope with that quite a while back. It's still in my previous life as a full-time developer. Because even as a developer, there were many things that I liked doing and things that I didn't like doing, right? Or technology that I liked, or certain aspects of my job I liked, and things I didn't. I think I wrote about that. I yes, I was talking about legacy code. It was when I finally flipped to my relationship with legacy code changed. I learned how to look at the same issue, but instead of the way that I used to look at, like I don't want to do it, and then you start procrastinating, like you always find an excuse not to do that, into a challenge. I know it sounds a bit cliche or stuff, but it really helped me. This is exactly how I see the world today. I said, okay, I don't like it, but like I'm very competitive, as you know very well. And I said, okay, you don't like it, but how good are you to solve that and make that go away? Right. So how can you solve that quickly so that you don't need to do? So I started creating challenges in solving those things. And all of a sudden, legacy code was exactly like that before. I didn't want to work with legacy. I wanted to work in greenfield and stuff. And then I said, you know what? How good am I to make that work? How good am I to turn that project that I don't like around? How good am I to actually take a relationship that is broken with a client or an architect or whoever? What if I take ownership of that and try to turn it around? And I took that with me in my current life, that is more like the position that we have today. So I think I cope much better in dealing with problems that I would not choose to do them, but I don't think I see them as I don't like them. I have far less things that I would say today, I don't like this and I don't want to do it, because my relationship with those work is now changed. It's like, this is another problem that I want to solve. See what I'm saying? That is the first part. Yeah.
So on that, for me, that's called to some. I mean, I understand you're reframing the thing in order to make
Yeah,
it
in my head,
appealing,
exactly. But
and that's
allows me to cope with that better and finds the motivation that otherwise I would not have to deal with that problem.
yeah. But yeah, there are certain things that is very difficult. Like I understand legacy code, for instance, is something that lends itself to to something like that. But dealing with bureaucracy, for instance, or paperwork, it's not one of
No,
those.
yeah,
It is
But
very challenging for
but
me.
there is a similar thing to that, because I was saying, nothing focuses the mind as a good deadline, right? Because like sometimes you even like doing something, but you don't, because you got lots of other things to do, and you don't want to create time and stuff. And although you think you'll enjoy it when you sit down, but you just don't want to sit down and start doing it. I had a typical example recently. I had to write a training course. I had about 3 months. You know what? I waited till the last week to actually write it. But when the last week started, the mind was, I had to deliver that in, and I created an even earlier, more artificial deadline, because I thought, oh, you know what? I'm gonna run it internally. So I didn't want to, I know myself, I didn't want to go right to the wire. So I thought, if I run it internally, it's a softer deadline, but I still have to do it. I can't change it because I've set it up. People are expecting it, but I don't have to be 100%, but also it will give me experience. And that also kind of focused me. And then I sat down, and that's all I did, and I got it done. But before that, you do it for about half an hour, and you'd almost be looking for other things to do, and you just go ahead and do something else. And so a deadline is similar thing, is that
you
kind of,
created a challenge, right? You
yeah,
created a
yeah,
challenge.
yeah, exactly. And you don't have an option. It becomes urgent. It's important, but also becomes urgent now. And then you do it.
I use two other things. There's one of my favorite philosophers, Mike Tyson. I think it was him who said. I think it was him
You
that
gotta say
said.
the second favorite is Kanye West.
I think it was him that said something along the lines of, you can do anything with discipline. No, like it is about discipline. It's about doing something you don't like, but doing it like you love it, right?
Mhm.
And if you manage to incorporate that in how you work, and this is something that, for instance, people who do CrossFit or whatever, like it's hard, dude. Like exercising is difficult, and sometimes you don't want to go to the gym, and sometimes but getting into a frame of mind, or okay, I'm gonna do it, boom, and just doing it and so on, that I feel like that is a skill that you build with time, and you need to practice it, and you need to and I feel that's one of the areas that I try to work on. The other one is more, and I'll use uh, I wouldn't call it a fable, but the little kind of imagery thing that I learned from someone, right? Is in the Rocky Mountains, you have herds of, I don't know if herds is the right word for this, but for buffaloes and cows or cattle and so on, right? And when it starts raining, what usually happens is starts raining, and the cows are here, and starts raining, and then the cows start moving, and eventually the rain catches up to them and so on. But by running away from the thing, they extend the amount of time that basically they're getting wet. No. On the other side, you have the buffaloes, right? And buffaloes, went as soon as the first drops of rain start running in the direction of the water, right, of the clouds. And by doing that, they actually minimize the amount of time that they're getting wet. No. So sometimes when this needs to get done, I just go and get it done, and my mindset is I want to get this done as soon as possible, right? It's not about waiting until the last time. It's about I just want to kill this thing and and forget about it, right? And that's the other kind of let's call it mental trick or whatever, right? Like it's about remove it. I don't want to even think about this, so just go and do it, even if you don't like it, right? And that works for me as well.
I think there
Yeah.
are a few. Sorry, go on, Sandro.
No, go on, Mash.
Now, I was just going to say that there are a few things that stress me. You probably know, but there are two things that stress me a lot. One is public speaking, stresses the shit out of me, and the other thing is having too many things to do stress me out. So when things pile up and they're constantly piling up, and I'm not getting rid of them, that stresses me out. And the only way I can release the stress, and I think maybe it's akin to what you're saying, Jose, is to start batting them off, to start getting rid of the things that are currently on my plate. And that's the only thing that actually helps. I mean, I can go and try to forget about it, or it's constantly riding my brain that I have too many things to do. And that's also, I think, similar thing is that, like, get it done, or keep worrying.
Yeah, I was talking about reframing the problem, and sometimes that is the problem itself becomes I reframe to challenge. Sometimes I what really helps me to find that motivation to actually get that done is understand why I'm doing that thing. So, but I need to reframe it in my head as well. Okay, the reason that you need to speak to the lawyers, or you need to review contracts, or because you need to do that things that I normally don't like doing, is because you are trying to run a successful company. So in order to run that, so I try to create a much bigger goal that I need to achieve and say, it's going to lead you to that. If I don't reframe that like that, I will procrastinate. It will not become an important thing to me. So I need to make it important. But in order to do that, I need to know doing this thing that I don't like doing or I don't want to do is because I want to achieve that other thing. And this is a means to that end. So I need, if I don't do that, there are things that I won't do. right? So this helps me a lot. Another thing that we were kind of speaking about some methods that we might use, mainly with the current situation. For example, there is something that I really don't like is when people just start adding meetings to my calendar without speaking to me. It really pisses me off, right? I said to a few people, I said, look, the fact that I have a gap in my calendar doesn't mean that I don't have anything else to do, right? So if you want to book a meeting, let me know. Hey, we need to speak. When would you be a good time with you? But because nowadays everyone is working remotely, we have less opportunities to bump on each other. So every conversation that you have needs to be scheduled. And this process becomes a bit slow, and then people start adding things. So one of the things that I've been doing now is blocking my calendar. I don't know why it took so many years for me to learn that. But I'm now, you should know now because you have access to my calendar, I now have quite a few blocks. I block a period of time in different days and stuff, because this is a way for me to take what you said, Jose, and say, you know what, there are things that I really need to get done, but I need to assign time. And then I'm blocking, I'm scheduling meetings with myself just to do that thing. So are there other things that you guys, because I'm a bit cheating, self-organizing. This is one of the most advanced things that I do to organize myself.
There is another one that you kind of mentioned, which is, I use procrastination in a positive way.
Right.
Yeah. So
expand on that, because I'm curious.
No, again, I use procrastination in a positive way.
I think that you suit me. Yeah.
I keep a list of things that I need to get done that are usually, minor tasks and things I don't really feel like doing or whatever, but it's, they don't really require a lot of, thinking or whatever. No, I don't know, doing the dishes or something like that. No. And when I don't want to tackle something, I go and do something from that list. So instead of wasting time, I'm still working and I'm still getting shit.
So basically, you can do this thing that you don't want to do,
or you can do this other thing.
Exactly. Okay.
Read a contract or do the dishes.
Exactly. And at least I feel like it's it's not completely wasted time. Like I'm still getting something done. And then you're already, when you finish that, you're already in a better frame of mind to even consider the other task, right? So I do that quite often.
You know, when you were previously talking about like frame of mind and that kind of thing, I was thinking of like, this is actually a strategy I like to use. Like when I go for a run, I don't like running, but is that I try to look up and look around and see, like, there's like, I'm out, like, there's kind of a nice scenery. Try to kind of think of not the fact that my lungs are about to to burst, but something else, kind of take. And I think it's similar to kind of maybe looking at the actual outcome, but even trying to enjoy the process, like a lot of cross people and even kind of Zen, and especially in the kind of Japanese culture, kind of finding pleasure in the minute things, in the process of things and so on, is also, I think, important. Although maybe reading a contract is probably not easy. I think you can find pleasure in doing the dishes more easily than reading a contract.
But Mash, you touched on one thing that is also part of the reframing that is an important aspect. Is always finding the positive side. Probably you guys will remember, like early in your careers, how often you said, or even we heard people that are how can I say, in their start of their careers or their journey, saying things like, oh, there's nothing here for me to learn, right? So for example, you want a job and you say, oh, there's nothing here for me to learn, so I need another challenge. And I said that a few times, and that led me even to change jobs, because in my head, there's nothing for me to learn. right? And what you were saying, Mash, remind me of this thing about there's always something to learn. You might, but your mind might say, you know what, there are things that you want to learn, and there are loads of other things that are in front of you that you don't want to learn. It's not that there's nothing for you to learn. You just either are not paying attention, or you paid attention and you selected, hey, I don't want to learn anything on those things in here. So saying that, this is another mind trick that I apply, is distorting reality a bit. I still need to do that task, but if I can change my perspective, for example, reading the contracts. I know nothing about law. What did I know about employment law 8 years ago? Nothing. I would maybe just Google, because like if I was, I don't know, if I had to understand the contract that I signed with a company before I resigned, right? But like, but besides that, I never had any other curiosity. But like nowadays, in the amount of work that we need to do, there are many things that I would not have chosen to do that. But now, flipping that, saying, you know what, I need to do that anyway, right? So I don't have a choice. I need to do that. So make it pleasant, make it count, make it like be something positive. And then I say, you know what, I can actually learn something useful here. I can learn how employment law works, how accountancy works, how financials, and how HR, and how build a team, and how to turn a client around, or how, you know, like, so this thing. So reframing that in terms of, you know what, I need to do that. Let's make the best out of it, and learn something here. So this is an attitude that I did not have in the past. Right?
I think, and as Jose was saying, it's a skill. It's not just you have to really build that skill in yourself. You have to see the things around you. That, you know, sometimes it's not actually about that all these things in front of me, but I don't want to learn, and I want to learn those things. It's actually all those things in front of me that I'm not even seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that I'm learning, I'm not even seeing. In fact, the first kind of the project that we did, I was with one of our first few craftspeople when we started Codurance, and we were at UBS, and you know, he came to me after a few months, and he said, you know, like, I'm not used to this amount of bureaucracy, and there's a lot of yak shaving and talking to people and to kind of get things done, and I feel I'm not really learning anything. And I said to him, you know what, give it another few months. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna ask you whether you've learned something, because you are learning a lot. It's just that you're not seeing what you're learning. You see your learning as purely technology, purely um, programming, purely the new language or the next programming challenge. But actually, there's a lot of things that you are gaining experience in and learning that are extremely valuable for your career, but you're not seeing it because you're not aware of it even. And I think this is that is the same thing. It's like, you know, you kind of start looking around you and starts not just the kind of the thing that you almost have these blinkers on, you know, that, you know, I'm going that way, and now only the things in that direction matter. But actually, this is the thing that we were talking about when we talked about like building your career and so on. It's like kind of opening your mind a bit and kind of allowing experiences to come to you, and looking at those diversity of things around you and seeing all the things for the value that they bring, rather than just those things that you see of value, you know.
And this changes your perspective of effectiveness as well, because bringing to the topic, because as you understand more about your surrounding and you understand those things that you might not like, but they impact your work, understanding them at a deeper level, and that's, well, helping us to say, you know what, those are the constraints. Now I understand why those things are the way they are. How can I work in a way that I can achieve my...
And yeah, and gaining those experiences and skills and seeing them for what they are actually helps you be more effective, because you can bring a lot more skills, a lot more perspective to bear on the thing that you're trying to achieve,
and reduce the frustration and stress and stuff like
exactly
that. Right?
Exactly.
I'm going to change gears now a little bit, because we're talking about tools and we kind of share what, you know, works for each of us. But I have to say, I've tried a few, you know, methods, like getting things done, you know, bullet journal, you know, that kind of stuff. and none of them work for
Not the
me. I
one.
know. Yeah, and maybe it's, again, I didn't use them right, or maybe, and I've tried them a couple of times. Like getting things done is something that I've started more than once, no, to like go back at it and so on. Is there anything that you guys do in particular, around this kind of method or setup or whatever that would help you with that?
One thing I would say, not answering your question yet, but one thing I would say is that every time I read some of these self-help books, like Seven Habits of we talked about that, or Getting Things Done, or, you think, oh yeah, even now I'm gonna be a different person.
Now I
Yes.
found the solution. Right?
I got
Atomic
it.
Habits, I read it, I said, oh, okay, yeah, this is what I was missing.
Like the Matrix. No, it's like, you plug it in, and I know kung
Yeah,
fu, right?
exactly,
Like, I
exactly.
know kung
Like
fu.
you're so kind of sit, yeah, you're so simple, and yeah, then like few days afterwards, you've even forgotten what the book said, and you're back to your usual shit. It's very true. It's very true. A lot of those things they don't work. Uh, it's a very difficult question, though, I think, to answer the question in a serious way. What are the things that work for me? I, the way I see it is that I think over the years, I've built a bit of an instinct for collecting things where people rely on me for getting things done. And I use all sorts of things. And it's actually, in a way, seems quite disorganized. But I have a few things that work for me. And we were just joking about it, like in my notes, I start something that needs to do and I look back, so my notes are scattered with things, and I make a habit of going back there, right? The other thing is that I do have like kind of this thing, that nagging feeling at the back, that things start piling up. I know what needs to be done. I One thing is almost empathy. That person needs this person needs this, this family member needs this thing, and I need to do these things, and it almost rides you in your subconscious. And I think this is like something you build like almost sensitivity to over time. And I know it's not a tool, but it's almost having that sympathy in a way to the people that are waiting for you, to people that are relying on you, and to not let them down, right? That's another thing that kind of makes things important, where people rely on you. The other thing is, like, even on, I have small things on Slack, for example, where um, if someone asks me a question and I can't immediately answer it, but I've read it, I will just add a single letter in the response without pressing send. And in Slack, it pushes it up to be a draft edit. And I look at my drafts in Slack to see what I need to respond to. I do a similar thing with emails. Emails stress me out if my inbox is like, I try to get to like maybe 10-15 messages at a time, and I use like at different times, the like, kind of snooze things and so on here and there, but not in any methodical. And if you tell me, do I snooze everything all the time, and do I, like, sometimes things do slip the net, and I use all these little things in a shoddy way to keep myself kind of above the water, as it were. But if you were to ask me, do I have like an amazing bullet journal, and do I always have inbox zero, and do I, no, none of that. So no, I don't have any one tool that I use methodically, but I do try to create some time. Similarly, Sandro, there are some meetings that are sitting there. I know I'm not even going to attend, but I leave them there because I know other people won't put those any more meetings in there. That kind of thing.
You need to
Or in
tell
the
me what
morning.
those are.
Yeah. In the morning. Also, like, there's another tactic. You kind of like, I am really grumpy in the morning, and that helps. People don't put meetings earlier than 10 in my calendar, but I actually wake up, like, I have at least an hour and a half maybe before the first 10 a.m. meeting hits me. So there are other things as well, like things that work for you. Just be grumpy in the morning, and people won't put meetings in your calendar. That's a joke.
Yeah, I'm also like, I think that, like, similar to you, I tried all sorts of tools over time, from Trello to bullet to-do lists and inbox zero and all sorts. Gave up on all of them. Like, so I'm not disciplined because the tools were stressing me out, right? Because I was not able to prioritize the things on the tools. I start adding loads of things, and I was not refining my backlog or prioritizing. And then all of a sudden, I had more work to do in managing things. So I went back to pen and paper. I have just notebooks and stuff. I had the small ones, the more skinny thingy kind of stuff. Now I have two very large notebooks for different things. But I think that over time, this is what Mash was saying. In the first years, they were very difficult for me to multitask and to get used to it. But now, after 8 years doing this job, like, it's been such a long time that I've been dealing with multiple balls at the same time. I think I developed an instinct, as you were saying as well, Jose. I know which balls I can drop, which balls I cannot drop, which balls that I will deprioritize. I made kind of peace. I think that if I try to be too organized, the fact that I feel that I need to be organized and keeping those tools and think and stuff, that stresses me out sometimes even more. So I end up going to very rudimentary kind of organizational things. I develop an instinct what is important, what is not, and I end up blocking my time. And then I block my calendar and say, like, this time I don't want to speak to anyone. I need that time for myself because I know that I have some things that need to be done, and other things the things that I delegate or I need to monitor and stuff, then I schedule the meetings and I keep on track of them. But that's, yeah, going beyond than that, it stresses me out. So I removed that.
For me, I wouldn't say it's the most effective thing, but it is something that helps me out a lot. Is I do have to-do lists, but not in the sense of I need to do this. I use them usually when a thought comes to my mind, and I just want to make a note of like ideas for blah blah blah, and I'll write something there, detailed enough to sort of like get what the idea is, no? And maybe I'll forget about it, and then at some point when oh, let me check what's in there, right? So that helps me a lot in that sense because I can then free my mind to do all this stuff, right? Like it's the way that I think about it. I have notes. I take notes in meetings and so on, and right, and just having those just helps me not to have to keep everything in memory. You know what I mean? Like that's the main thing. So I write. My notes are terrible in that sense. It's like if someone asks me, can you send me your notes? I'm like, I'm taking notes, but I'm taking notes for myself. So maybe I'll write 3 words. You know what I mean, or something like that that will trigger what I was trying to think of what was important out of that. So that's another thing. And there's a one that I just forgot right now.
You should have kept a note.
Yeah, I should have.
Exactly. Like the to-do list is not working well.
exactly. It's not working. No, I'll definitely steal the one from like writing the draft in Slack. I feel like that's a good one as well. Oh, I was also going to tell you another thing, which is you inbox zero or whatever. Like I'm the person that I got my Gmail account at the beginning when Gmail was still an invitation only kind of thing. About 2 or 3 months ago, I already started getting like, your thing is at 99%. So I just let emails go. Like this is the way that I think about it. Like I should be able to search it, right? Like that was the whole point. Like if huge amount of space to get all your emails or whatever. Like if I need to find something, I'll just type in the search and find it. The whole thing about keeping things neatly organized.
Oh
and so
no,
on
none of that. I don't have folders. I don't have folders now.
It's something that doesn't work out for me.
I
Right?
I have I have archive and I know the shortcuts. I think this is one thing about like keeping your inbox small is like I always archive things or like I rarely snooze them, but archive a lot. And if they're in the inbox, like respond immediately and get rid of it. But still, lots left in the inbox.
Right. Talking about being effective, like we always aim to finish our episodes in less than an hour. I think that we are being not very effective. Achieving. Yeah, exactly.
Are we effective? Have we been not effective, but
are
have we been
really
efficient?
effective in getting the episodes under an hour? Probably not, right? So, okay. So let's wrap up then. So, as always, if you manage to stay with us until now, after an hour and 10 minutes,
I remembered what the third thing was.
Go on.
Let's go.
Hey, we got plenty of time. Go for it.
No, it's tiny
we have
habits.
Plenty of time, right?
No. Have you heard of tiny habits?
Atomic habits. Yeah.
No. Tiny habits.
Oh, okay.
It's Atomic Habits. It's a different book. Tiny Habits.
But Atomic are very tiny as well. But anyway, sorry. Go on.
Yeah. No. It's fine. So is this guy VJ Fogg, who's been studied for a very long time, the whole idea of habit creation and all of that. And this is the only thing that kind of has worked for me at a personal level on certain things. So especially when trying to make time to get things, to work on things or to do things that I want to do, but maybe if I don't set it into my routine, I will forget, or I will just tend to prioritize other things. And it works for everything. It works for drinking more water, or listening and staying updated with the news or whatever habit. So that's something that has worked a lot for me, which is a lot of habit creation. It works better if you're already linking it to a previous habit that you have, or if you find a trigger that works with the same frequency as the thing that you want to do, right? Like you want to drink more water. What I do is, as soon as I get to the kitchen, I drink a glass of water, right? Or in this case, before I sit in the computer, when I'm coming to the computer, I bring a glass of water and I put it next to me. I'm not going to drink it there because I just drank a glass of water in the kitchen, right? But by having it close to me and by modifying kind of my environment, it allows me to be more, remove the blockers, so that the amount of effort that takes me to be able to, do the thing that I want to do is much smaller. And this is something that has also worked quite well for me. This is where the procrastinating work part also comes from a little bit, right? Like I know that I'm not gonna feel like doing it. Okay, so what about, let me just grab something and do it, right? So that was it.
No, cool, because I think that this is an interesting thing about effectiveness, because like we didn't cover that much, but I think that this is also like there was a part in the episode that I said like there are two things that I want to cover. I covered one, and the other one was about small, not tiny habits. I didn't know that there was a thing like called tiny habits, but introducing small habits. And I've done that with learning Spanish, for example, always a few minutes in the morning. I do that before I take my kids to school. I blocked my calendar to go to the gym every Tuesday at times. So there are very small things that I'm fitting in my life. Having the water near me, I have that as well. So I also have my whiskey. I don't know if it helps, but like so the two bottles are, sometimes they look the same, but anyway. So
we are not sponsored by any, but if you want.
So exactly, Fireside Chat sponsored by Lagavulin, the best whiskey in Ireland. So okay, cool. Let's wrap up for today. So thank you very much, everyone. If you managed to stay with us, remember to subscribe so you are notified when there is a new video. Put a thumbs up, and also let us know if there is any topic you'd like to discuss. So thank you very much. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.